Hi everyone. Today we're working on the Harley Quinn zombie. Not actually Harley Quinn, but one of my nieces thought it was, and I can see where she got that from. So now she is the Harley Quinn zombie. We also are going to discuss the latest Audible audiobook I listened to, which is Get Bent by Rick Gualtieri. I've actually been a fan of Gualtieri for a very long time, starting with his original Tome of Bill series. I've read his Bigfoot Hunter series, and then even a book by him under a different name, and I don't want to give him away, so I won't mention that one. But they're all very good books, and they all have different tones. It's really refreshing to see somebody be able to write different series, and they don't follow the same tone. Now, he's always got the same sort of adult, darker humor. And I'm sorry, my cat really wants to talk to us right now. Say hi to Onyx. He does not like to be ignored. But he does a lot of dark adult humor, and it really works for his stories. But they're not all written the same way, so you're not getting always the same type of jokes. Tome of Bill is wildly comedic while being very genius in the way it's told. Get Bent is told more from the female perspective, which is also impressive. And what's impressive is how well Rick gets the story, or gets the female character. She is not the typical fantasy character heroine. While heroines in urban fantasy, especially more modern urban, well, really heroines in urban fantasy tend to be modern for one thing, but they tend to be tougher and not the wilting violets you would see in, say, a romance novel. And even then, romance novels have come a long way. But the main character, Tamara Bent, is harsher than most of the, and I don't mean harsh like she's meaner, but her demeanor is harsher. She is a female wrestler in college, so she's not a pro wrestler, she's just a female college wrestler, but she makes a lot of WWE references though, so if you are not a WWE fan, you're probably not going to like the references, or at least get the references. It's not horribly over the top though, so you should be fine. There's like 5 or 6 jokes in there you wouldn't get. That's alright. He doesn't make his main character overly, she's not ugly, but she's not one of those overly frail, beautiful types. She is a wrestler. She even references herself as a brunette Beth Phoenix, WWE reference, or wrestling reference. I think I just picked the wrong, okay. I got distracted by my gems here. The plot of the story is about Bent, or Tamara, or Tam Tam as her dad calls her. She discovers she is not what she thought she was, and she has to deal with the repercussions of not being what she thought she was. Now, the one thing I'll say about the story, and this can be good or bad depending on your own perspective. I'm not going to say what you might like. The majority, well, not the majority, about a third of the actual book is the climax, like the final fight scene. And I listened to the audiobook. Starts around the 3.5 hours to go, 3 hour to go mark, and takes until about a half an hour to go. And it's not a terribly long novel or story. So it's about a third. I mean, it could be a quarter. I'm forgetting how long it actually was now. Some people may not enjoy that. It was very well detailed, and it didn't feel like it was that long. The only reason I really noticed is when I'm diamond painting like this, I tend to only do about an hour at a time. And I noticed I was cutting in to the climax a lot. And that was the only reason I even really noticed. Bent has a best friend in the story, and she is also a breath of fresh air. It's really good to see in especially female protagonist stories where the females stick together. Her best friend Reva and her have very different values, but they make them work together. And again, I don't like to say too much about a story other than some of the points that make it good or bad. I would say nothing but good about this story. There was a few things, as a former beta reader, and a former beta reader for Rick, actually, that I was like, oh wait, I would have changed that slightly. But that's a beta reader in me. I do that with all books now, which actually took away a lot of my enjoyment of reading for a very long time. And it's why I read a lot less and started listening to audiobooks more. That and audiobooks are great to listen to while I'm doing things like this. Might as well entertain myself. Other than listening to the same 5 songs over and over. So with audiobooks, I don't tend to have beta reader instinct in audiobooks. But because I was a beta reader once for Gualtieri, it kind of kicked in a few spots, and I was like, I would change this, but it didn't need me as a beta reader. Let's just say that. It was a really good story, and I'm not just saying that for being a former beta reader for Rick, not because I like him and I do like him, he's funny and he's great, but that's not why I'm saying these things. The last book of his, no, tell you honestly, so you know, the last book of his I read was, I think Bigfoot Hunters was the first one, and I can't remember the second one. Oh, it's totally gone from me now. I was not as big of a fan of that one as I was the first book in that series. Didn't hate it, but didn't love it. We'll see. Not that the plot was really good. I dragged on that one. It took me a really long time to read that one. And I didn't listen to the audiobook for that one. And again, like I said, sometimes when I actually read something, it's been ruined by, you should beta read this, and I always have, but I'll do that for published novels that, you read those big budget published novels, and I'll sit there and say, but this doesn't make sense. Why would you put that there? Alex realized he wasn't getting attention again. But I'm not besmirching his last book at all, because they're still good. Just to make a point that I don't love his books just because it's him. I love his books because I like his humor. He really gets it, and the fact that he can write a female protagonist the way he did impresses the heck out of me. She was female. The only masculine bits to her were the parts, and in this day and age, what's really masculine anymore? We try to shy away from that. But he understood a female who is not just another pretty thing. She wanted something, she goes after it. She wanted to do something, she goes after it. And the only thing about this book, and you know what, I swear like a sailor when I'm not doing things like these videos, but I could not listen to it when my niece and nephew were around, because she definitely lays some F-bombs a lot. And again, I do too. If there's no kids around, I swear like a sailor. And so it did not, and I was actually impressed that he just let it go and let it happen. Now, she wasn't like over the top, but whenever she ran into something, her initial reaction wasn't, oh shoot, it was, oh fuck. And good for her, because that would be mine too. And you don't see that very often. Women in most books, even urban fantasy, still stick to certain rules. And the ones that kind of go outside the rules are kind of boring. She is anything but. And then the book is narrated by, and I lost her last name somewhere. Her first name is Rachel. I apologize for forgetting the last name. She's amazing. She is Tamara Bentley. It was perfect. I don't know how somebody can capture so many different voices like she did. She did an amazing job. Yeah, I was really entertained for the 6+ hours of the story. I definitely have no complaints about it, other than the ones that maybe other people would have. But I have no complaints. I'm really looking forward to the second one. The second one actually comes out in a week. And that's what reminded me. I had a credit, and I hadn't realized his first book was in this series was an audiobook yet. So Get Bent is the first in the series. Let's be clear. Don't know how many he plans on writing. I'm not sure he knows how many he plans on writing. The end of the first one definitely leaves it open to a sequel. There's no real question about it. It doesn't end on like a cliffhanger. It's not Fellowship of the Ring. It finishes the story, but leaves it open with a definite threat still kind of looming for Tamara. And that's the way it should be on novels that want to be a series. Finish the main plot, but leave something open. The problem a lot of writers get into, and this did not happen with the Tome of Bills, so Gualtieri can already count himself out of this equation, but a lot of authors who write long series end up leaving a lot of unanswered questions they build it up so much, and they make sure to clear up the major ones, but there were so many along the way, and then they leave them too open. Actually, a lot of TV shows do the same thing, to be honest. A lot of people, if it gets too long, it just leaves too many things open. And I'm always torn on how I feel about long series. Most of the time I hate them. I still love Jim Butcher. I love the Dresden Files, even though he kind of disappeared a bit from writing those. But they did not slow down for me. I still loved each and every one of them. But most other series I've read that have been over like 6 books, we'll say, I stopped enjoying. So if you guys have any books that you still, or any series you still enjoy after 6 books, let me know. Specific examples for those, for ones I don't like. Laurel K. Hamilton, her Anita Blake series. Oh my god. I actually made it to book 10 or 11, I think, before I finally threw it down and went, I'm done. And somebody recently told me, oh, it gets better. Like, I don't care. I can't get myself to continue anymore. I just lost so much interest. I read a synopsis recently that irritated the heck out of me. This is what I was waiting for. Elizabeth Hayden is another author. She wrote the Symphony of Ages series. Now, the first trilogy was amazing and would probably, as a standalone, if I pretend she didn't write anything else after that, probably would be one of my favorite series ever. I devoured the first 3 books. I found them randomly at Borders when it was still a thing. Picked it up on my way to a doctor's appointment because I liked the covers, and read the full trilogy within 2 weeks. They're long books. I would not stop. If I was not working, I was reading those books. Then she did a couple of bridge books, and they were good, but you could tell they were trying to set up what was coming. Cool. Alright. And then the next trilogy began. Oh my god. Oh, did she ruin that series so much. And I hated every minute of it. So I don't even know if it was another trilogy, but the last book in the series made me, yeah, I can't even remember all the books now. That's how much I hated the rest. The last book killed me. It was so bad. It's like she just wanted to be done with it as well. Trying to think of other long series that at the moment I can't really think of anything that I've actually read. So if you guys have thought of anything you've read that's a long series and you liked through the entire thing, let me know. I would love to find some good series. But back to Rick and his books, since that's what this one was about. I would highly recommend Get Bent. You get a great female protagonist who is going to fight her way, and that reminds me of my one complaint about the series, or book, sorry. I was talking about series and it was stuck in my head. My one complaint about the book is during one scene, she points a lot of fingers, and she never really and truly blames herself when it's a lot her fault. And she should blame herself a little bit more than she seems to. There's parts where she feels guilty for the things that are going on, but she spends too much time blaming others. And I'm not saying the others aren't at fault too. She needs to stop blaming everybody else and remember there was other options that she could have taken. Again, I think if I was her, I would have taken the same option she did. I'm not even blaming that. But she should feel a little more blame than she really was going for. She quite potently, in one spot, blames somebody else for what's happening. And I kind of was like, wait, don't you think that should be pointing at you a little bit? But again, I probably would have made the same choice she did, given the option. And again, I can't really explain what the choice was, because that gave it away. I do recommend, if you have a credit though, listening to it, especially if you're into urban fantasy. If you're into stronger female protagonists, if dropping an F-bomb doesn't bother you, if you're into characters being more realistic even in a fantasy setting. It is, and I will tell you this, it is not a romance novel. So just because it's a female protagonist, he proves it does not have to be a romance novel as well. Now, me personally, anything I would have written would have had romance or something like that in it. But that's me. I can totally read a book that doesn't and enjoy it. And there is no romance in this. The only love relationship, really, is between a girl and her parents and a girl and her best friend. And again, Riva is the best friend we should all wish we had. So read it for Riva. She's amazing. Alright, everyone. This has been longer than I wanted it to be. I will see you all the next time. Thank you.